comfortable. Hey there, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. Thank you for deciding to spend the next couple of minutes watching this video. Now today's video is going to be a story time on the time that some stranger decided it was his place to arrange a partner for me. So when I was about 20 years old, I was 19 turning 20, post high school, pretty much post high school, I enrolled into an apprenticeship program with a certain company, and I got in. That's the long and short of it. So what they did was, you would apply, in as much as you would apply for a certain program that you wanted to get into, that they were offering, they would put you guys through a series of tests and exams and assessments just to see what program you're actually best suited for. So because of that, they had a logging system whereby you would take a couple of tests, you would make a couple of things, like you do a whole bunch of things, tests, assessments, workshop practice, and based on how good you were at a certain thing or how good you were in a certain area, you would be graded, and then your grades and marks will be compiled, and then you would be ranked against each other. So the higher you were on the log, the better your chances of choosing the program that you specifically want to do. Right, now I bet you I'm wondering at this point, okay, what does a logging system have to do with you and being partnered with someone for life? So what happened was, I don't like to brag or whatevs, but I was generally the smartest girl on the log. I pretty much was up in the top with the guys. I'm a very competitive person by nature. So I was like, no, let's do this, let's do this. I want to get into what I want after all. I don't want them to have to pick for me what it is they think I'm suited for. So it sort of came down to me and this other guy. This other guy was also pretty smart. He was smart. I won't say he was pretty smart. He was smart. And he was like at the very top of the log. Now there was this training officer who was one of the guys who assessed and whatnot. So I was generally a friendly person. I was friendly with everyone. I had no beef with anyone. So I used to talk to this guy. He was an older man. He was an older man. He was older than my dad, and he had the whole gray hair and everything coming in, and he had a sweet nature. He was approachable. Some of the officers, some of the trainers were so hard, you couldn't approach them. But this guy, he was approachable. You could talk to him about anything. He had more of the fatherly spirit than the other guys who were there to just do their job. So me and him used to talk a lot, and me, being 5 foot almost nothing and baby faced, and I generally look like someone like, oh, look at her, ain't that sweet, doesn't she need help, that kind of thing. I guess that's why I'm an overachiever, because I don't want people to do things for me because they feel sorry for me or they think I'm just too cute to do some things. I don't know, this is how it is. So I think he took on a local parentis role with me, which I didn't need because I was doing fine, which I didn't need, but he decided to take on. And for me, it was like, yeah, whatever. He was nice. When I greeted him, we had a bit of conversation, we talked, asked about his daughters. He also had a couple of daughters, and we just talk and we just chit chat back and forth randomly. So one day, I'm up there minding my own business, doing my own thing, and then this guy comes to me and he's like, yo, he motions me to come to where he is. And I go there and we start talking our random small talk, chit chat, yada yada, whatever. And then he's like, I'm very impressed with your marks. I'm impressed that you're giving the boys a run for their money. You're doing great. By the way, at that time that we were training, there was about 70 to 80 of us. And of that number, only 10% were girls, if I'm not mistaken, something along those lines. So it really was a big deal if a girl was, in the top 5 of the log, because it's generally a male-dominated industry anyway. 1 second.
12 seconds later.
Yeah, we had this board where they would display our marks and everything, and that's where he was when he called me, and he motioned me and he's like, oh, I'm checking out the log, I'm so impressed. I think at that time I was third or second on the log, and this guy was first, whatever. And he motioned me. He's like, "Oh, I'm so impressed with you. Oh my God, you're doing so well. Like, this is cool. Keep up the good work. Don't let these boys intimidate you. Yada yada." And all that stuff. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, thank you, just trying to stay humble, thank you. And I'm about to walk away, and he's like, "No, wait, I have something that I meant to ask you." And I'm like, "Okay, did I do something wrong? Am I in trouble? Did I cross the line? And he was like, "No, what do you think of this guy that's on the top? Let's call this guy Tom." He's like, "What do you think about Tom?" I'm like, "I don't think anything about Tom. If anything, Tom is the competition. He's in my spot. I want to be in that top spot that he's at, Other than that, I don't think much of him, and I don't even talk to him that much besides the odd hi-bye, but Tom is just Tom, And he's like, "Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Now I was just wondering what you thought about Tom." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's weird. Did Tom say something? Did I do something? Did I cross the line? He was like, No, you didn't do anything. It's cool." So that was that on that. The conversation ended there, and I walked away, went to class, started doing my own things. A few weeks later, he asks me again, we're back at that same spot, and he's like, "I have daughters of my own." I'm like, yeah, I remember you mentioned it. And one of his daughters at that time was doing A-level. So I was like, "Yeah, I hope she's, studying, reading, blah, 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 just trying to make small talk." And then he was like, "Yeah, so I like to consider myself as a father figure. And, sometimes as dads or as parents, we see how successful our daughters are, and we want to match them or pair them up with successful guys." Okay. Great. Is there a guy you want me to hook up with your daughter? And he was like, "No, so I've been watching you and I've been monitoring you, and you're so focused. I'm impressed on how focused you are and how you're doing so great. You make us proud. We always talk about you in the staff room, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Oh, okay, thank you. But this is getting weird and uncomfortable. Where is this conversation going?" And he's like, "So, I was thinking that maybe you and Tom should sort of get together." And I'm like, "What? I don't even know him. Besides the fact that his name is Tom and he's always on top of the log and the hi-bye at tea time, I don't know him. I don't talk to him like that. I have my own friends. Thank you very much." Was I even dating at that time? I don't know. I don't think I was dating anyone at that time, but that was just weird. And I'm like 20 years old. I'm like, dude, the last thing on my mind is marrying someone. The furthest thing on my mind is being asked to marry someone or getting into an arranged marriage with someone. So anyways, I grew up with the type of parents or family whereby, the whole thing where maybe I'm young and there's another young boy and people are like, "Oh, my son is gonna marry your daughter one day." My mom like, "No." Nope. So for me, jokingly or even in a serious manner, I had never been in such a situation before. So he goes on to say, "Yeah, so that's what I've been observing and I've been thinking." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I came here to get a job, to learn, to earn some money. I didn't necessarily come here looking for a man. Like, where is this coming from?" He's like, "Oh no, don't worry. I'm a father figure. It's not malicious. It's from the heart. It's something that I noticed and I thought would be good for you." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm not out here struggling. Dude, I'm not struggling." He kept going on and on and on and on. And then eventually, when he realized that he wasn't getting any positive feedback from me, he was like, "Oh, if you're worried about Tom, I've already spoken to him about it and he's agreed to talk to you." Oh my God. At that point, I'm like, "What? What did you do? Why did you do? How? When? Why? him. Like, I'm not interested in him like that at all. At all. Now you're gonna make it seem as if I'm the one who sent you to go to him or something. You know, I'm really trying to keep my cool because there was lots of people around, but at the same time I was upset. I was really getting upset. Like, whoa, talk about crossing lines. Like, we're not even blood relatives. I met you here at work. You're my supervisor. You're my superior. You're not my matchmaker. You're not my Cupid. Where is this coming from? Why? And why did you go to him? You know, why? I really, really had to use every single fiber in my being to not go off on him, because in my opinion, he had really crossed the line. Like, how do you want to arrange a marriage for me? Like, how do you do that? So anyway, he took the liberty of talking to Tom about it and expressing to Tom how he felt. And Tom apparently was on board. I don't know, guys, if there are any guys watching this, would you, if some random person wanted to organize a relationship with another random person, would you go for it? Like, would you? I guess you'd give it a try. I don't know, but I wouldn't. So he motions for Tom to come over, and Tom comes over and he's just standing there now, and then he's like, oh, okay, let me leave you guys to it. I have got to go into the staff room now. We stood there, and that was the awkwardest position I've ever been in the longest time. We just stood there and we just looked at each other like, okay, now what? So Tom and I have been left standing there, and we're staring at each other awkwardly now, because it's like, dude, really? So he decides to, so I'm just standing there, and just as I'm about to walk away, he asks, so like, did he talk to you? And I'm like, well, yeah, he did. He talked to you? And he's like, yeah, he did. And he's like, so what do you think? And that is when I looked at him dead in the face and I started laughing. And I'm like, is that even a question? Like, are you serious right now? And he's like, no, don't laugh. Why are you laughing? And I'm like, dude, wait, you're actually serious? It's like, well, yeah, you know, I have actually been checking you out, and I wouldn't mind if we gave this a shot or a chance. Now, mind you, this is someone talking to a 20-year-old, 20-year-old, you know, and this concept is definitely new to them. The concept of having someone arrange a date, a marriage, a partner for you, especially in a work environment, that was just weird for me. And I'm like, look, as awkwardly flattering as this may be, I'm actually not interested like that. If anything, I'm offended, because I feel like lines have been crossed. And what do you expect me to do? You know, I am a subordinate, and if, for example, I was to yell at our supervisor, I would get into trouble, you know. So as awkwardly flattering as this is, it's not my cup of tea, and I'm not interested in this. And then he just sort of paused for a couple of seconds, and he's like, okay, yeah, you know what? I understand, but I'll give you some time to think about it. I'm like, no, did you not hear me politely try to say no? I'm actually saying no. And he's like, no, I think you should really think about it. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. What's the worst thing that could happen, right? So now I'm thinking, okay, this guy is clearly on a mission. He's clearly relentless about this. So, you know, whatever. I just walked away and I let it slide. I'm like, whatever. The next day, fast forward to the next day, was it a few days afterward, you know? So after this whole ordeal, I ended up avoiding this man altogether. Like, I ended up avoiding him. And he was someone who I'd greet with a smile. I'd go out of my way to say hi to him because I respected him. And I felt like he was someone that you could talk to, you know, when you needed to talk to someone without a biased opinion. But clearly, I was wrong. You know, he had his own agendas. So fast forward to a couple of days, maybe even weeks later, He comes up to me and he's like, look, I've noticed that you've been avoiding me. I've noticed that you don't even make eye contact with me. You don't even smile and wave at me anymore. Like, is there anything wrong? I'm like, is there anything right? What do you mean, is there anything wrong? Is there anything right to begin with? You know, what you did for me was personally crossing the line, and it's a situation that I wasn't comfortable with. I felt trapped, I felt cornered, I felt targeted. And to top it all off, there's not much that I can do about it, you know. I really felt like you overstepped your bounds and you probably took advantage or misinterpreted my niceness. But whatever it is, you crossed boundaries. And the crazy thing is that there's not much that I can do about it, you know. And he's like, oh, you know what, my child, I apologize. I didn't mean to do that. You know, when he said that, I was like, wow. First of all, I was like, wow. You know, very few people in authority and very few grown-ups know to actually apologize to people who are younger than them when they've crossed lines or when they've been confronted about issues. Usually they'll just be like, this one is disrespectful, you know. They'll just pull the respect card and they'll just keep moving, you know. But he was like, no, I apologize. I just, you know, thought it was just something that I thought. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, imagine if someone was to do the same thing for your daughter. How would you feel if your daughter was to come home and be like, hey, daddy, guess what? Teacher so-and-so has arranged for me to start dating so-and-so. Like, how would you feel about that? Would you be comfortable with that? And I was like, okay, yeah, all right. Maybe in hindsight, I did overstep, whatever. And then what does he do? He goes on to motion Tom to come again. It's like, Tom, I'm like, oh my God. I had been avoiding Tom now because Tom probably clearly wanted things to work in his favor, but I didn't want that. So that was just another super awkward situation as well. So he motions for Tom to come over to where we are again. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go again. He's like, Tom, I need you to apologize to my daughter, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, why should Tom apologize? It was your idea or was it Tom's idea? Tom, did you send this man? Like, what is going on here? You guys are not really being discreet or being smart with whatever plan that you had in the beginning. You know, and then Tom is like, apologize for what? I'm not apologizing. You know, I want this. I still want this. And I'm like, dude, no, let's be civil. Let's be real. Like, no, it's crazy. So this whole time I was thinking, you know, okay, this whole situation is between us. But Tom went and ran his mouth to everyone. So imagine the embarrassment now when people were just coming up to me. You know, some of my friends or acquaintances were coming up to me and were like, hey, dude, we heard. And I'm like, oh my God. Is there anyone who did not hear? I'd like to talk to the person that did not hear the story, because at least I can have someone to chat with and chill with who's normal around me, you know, who's not laughing at me about this whole situation. I went from being mad to being embarrassed to downright just laughing at myself about the whole entire situation. It was crazy, but at least we ironed it out. At least we ironed it out in a civil manner. So that right there is my mini story of how a total stranger decided it would be his place to arrange a relationship a relationship that would lead into marriage, because I don't think he'd be pimping me out for no reason. You know, that's my story, and it was something that really caught me off guard, but in hindsight it's something that I at least can laugh about. It's not a big deal anymore. Tom and I actually went on to be friends, you know, just friends. We talked until, you know, that fizzled out too. But it was a crazy time. Anyway, guys, tell me what you think of this story down in the comment section below. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like or dislike. It's entirely up to you. Just make sure you like. At least comment something, share this with your friends and family, and hit that black subscribe button right here or the red subscribe button down below. Okay, make sure you hit either one of those buttons. I would really appreciate it. And of course, if you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much once again. So until next time, guys, remember to stay safe, stay unarranged, or if it's your cup of tea, then fine. But make sure you stay safe, stay sane, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.